This is part of the Alex Murdaugh trial, February 15th, 2023. And cell phone technology is going to be a great line to be experienced in the future for people interested in this field, and I thought this would be good for people to see. This is a witness who's going to talk about cell phones, and our cell phones now can go up to 1 terabyte, huge amount of information. So what all is going on in there? Here he's going to talk about it.
David Grubbs.
Do you swear from the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you would please, sir, be seated, state your full name for the record, spell your last name.
My name is David Grubbs, Grubbs.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grubbs. Where are you
Good afternoon.
employed, sir?
I'm employed at the South Carolina Attorney General's office.
All right. And what is your job title at the Attorney General's office?
I'm the Chief Forensic Investigator for the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force.
All right. And just briefly, let the jury know what the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force does.
So we assist agencies throughout the state as well as have our own investigators, and we look into peer-to-peer downloads that go over the internet, usually containing child pornography in them. We also do chat ops throughout the state, posing as minors to attract suspects. My unit specifically does the computer forensics for those cases.
Okay. When you say forensics, you mean, for instance, cell phone forensics, correct?
Yes.
So as part of your job duties, you perform cell phone downloads, extractions, and analyze them, correct?
Correct.
And you've gone to a number of trainings in the past that's focused on that.
Yes, sir.
Correct. All right. Can you read for the jury your training in this area, please?
Sure. So I am a Celebrite certified operator, a Celebrite certified physical analyst. I'm a certified blacklight examiner, which both of those are cell phone data extraction tools. I'm certified in Forensic Explorer, which is used to analyze computers. GRIFI, analyze training, TIGO, in the area of magnet forensics, which is magnet makes the tool Axiom, which is one of our primary tools that we use. I've received advanced iOS and gray key training, advanced iOS examinations, magnet Axiom advanced mobile forensics, Axiom-based computer forensic examination, and Axiom advanced computer forensics. I'm also a member of the United States Secret Service Cyber Task Force, Cyber Fraud Task Force to be specific, which runs the National Computer Forensic Institute in Hoover, Alabama, where I've been sent to for basic network investigations, Macintosh forensic training, digital investigation supervisor's course, and I received an award in 2020 and 2021 being ranked in the top forensic examiners with the Secret Service. I've had training from the National White Collar Crime Center, which is called NW3C, in basic data recovery and acquisition, intermediate data recovery and acquisition, basic cell phone investigation, cell phone interrogation, advanced wireless network investigations, GPS interrogation, Windows artifacts, social media, identifying and seizing electronic evidence, encryption, and legal concerns for digital evidence responders. I've also been to the SANS Institute for multiple trainings for advanced network forensics and analysis, advanced digital forensics and incident response, hacker tools, techniques, exploits, and incident handling. I've taken a course with Texas A&M Engineering Service for information security. And then for other forensic softwares, I have had Access Data Bootcamp, Access Data Mac Forensics, Encase Computer Forensics. And in addition to that, pretty much every year except for when COVID was going on, we'll go to a national training for law enforcement on child exploitation in Atlanta.
All right. Thank you. At this time, state would move to enter Investigator Grubbs as an expert in cell phone forensics.
No objections.
Qualified. And Investigator Grubbs, there are 3 cell phones in evidence in this case, and the data associated, you've analyzed some of it, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's talk specifically about Paul's phone. And to your knowledge, was that originally extracted by, I believe, John Van Outen of the Secret Service?
Yes, sir.
And then provided to, that information provided to Lieutenant Brick Dove?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you received that cell phone information from him, and you've analyzed it as well, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you were asked to focus on a couple of specific areas in your analysis of those, of Paul's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
One of which was Paul's battery habits and battery usage on his cell phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 530. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
That is a report that I generated concerning Paul's phone and battery and shutdown time with the phone.
Okay. And you looked, in the week prior to the murders, you looked at how many times Paul's phone died because of its battery ran out, correct?
Correct.
You identified those times, right?
Yes,
Dates
sir.
and times.
Yes, sir.
So how many times that week did his phone die in total that week from the battery?
4.
All right. And what days were those on?
It looks like June the 3rd, twice on June the 5th, and then on June the 7th.
And June 7th, it died when?
It is 22:34, 24, or 10:34 p.m.
10:34 p.m. Okay. And one of the pieces of information that cell phones log is when a phone is plugged back in after it's died to charge, correct?
Yes.
All right. And when you looked at this data of when the phone died that week, Paul's phone died, did you identify when it was plugged in?
I did, sir.
All right. And can you just tell the jury on those two, when the phone died each of those times and when it was plugged back in, please?
Sure. So it is logged that on June the 3rd at 12:30:27 p.m. the phone died, the battery went dead, and at 12:34:03 it had power again. It was reconnected.
And I'm going to take that from you. And at this time, State would move to enter Exhibit 530 into evidence.
Submitted.
Can you see anything on your screen up there? Oh, here it comes. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so can you zoom out a little bit? There we go. All right, so on June 3rd of 2021, what time did Paul's phone die?
On the 3rd, 12:30:27.
All right, what time is it plugged in?
12:34:03.
About 4 minutes later, correct?
Yes, sir.
A little less than 4 minutes, correct?
Yes.
June 5th, the first time, at what time did the phone die?
10:18:33.
All right, and what time was it plugged back in?
10:36:17.
So that would be roughly 17 minutes or
Yes,
so?
sir.
All right, and then June 5th, the second time, what time did it die?
29, excuse me, or 9:23 p.m.
Okay, and what time was it plugged back in?
21:30:21 or 9:30.
Okay, so roughly about 7 minutes later.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
All right, and you just didn't focus on when Paul's phone died in the data you reviewed, correct?
Correct.
Did you find in what you reviewed, did Paul frequently let his battery get low?
Yeah, he seemed to kind of fly close to the sun. The phone was always getting down to 1 or 2% before he plugged it in.
And would you say, in your opinion, from the data reviewed, the majority of the time he let it get that low, would he ultimately get it plugged in before it died?
Yes, sir.
Except during that week for those specific occasions,
Correct.
All right. And one other thing you were asked to look at on Paul's phone were the times when his screen came on, correct?
Yes.
And when it came off, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's sometimes referred to as the backlight on a phone, correct?
Correct.
All right, and you're specifically asked to look at the time on Paul's phone starting at about 8:49 p.m. on the night of June 7th, correct?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna show you it's been marked as states 529. Take a look at that. And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, I created this.
All right, and what is that?
It shows the backlight for the phone when it's kind of going on and off throughout that night.
For what time period?
From the period of 8:49 and then the final time of 10:34.
Okay. At this time, state would move to enter Exhibit 529 of the evidence.
No objection.
Submit it. And let's before we talk about this specific data, let's just the jury's here heard some testimony on the screen backlight and the screen coming on. Under what conditions, generally speaking, will a cell phone screen come on?
There's a lot of conditions that'll cause a cell phone screen to come on. If you pick up your phone, that can have the screen turn on. If you get a message or an alert from an app that you have, that can cause the screen to turn on. If the phone senses motion in a particular way, it'll turn on. There's a whole variety of ways that the backlight will
I
activate.
think you may have mentioned this, but the screen can be tapped.
Yes, yeah, you can simply tap your screen and that will cause it to turn on as well.
And so just to in a nutshell, the screen can come on for sometimes there's no human interaction, correct?
Correct.
It also can be turned on by human interaction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's look at the information on your report real quick. All right. Okay, so at 8:49 p.m., it looks like the screen goes off, correct?
Correct.
Paul's phone. And what time does it get, the next time that screen lights up?
The next screen on is at 10:18:08 p.m.
Okay. And in your review of Paul's phone, did you determine during that same time frame, starting at 8:49, was Paul's phone locked or unlocked?
It was locked.
Okay, so it was locked and the screen was off between 8:49 and 10:18, correct?
Yes.
And then at 10:18:08, we see the screen would come on, correct?
Yes, it appears to come on for 12 seconds to 10:18:20.
Okay. And then the screen goes back off starting at what time?
10:18:20
Okay. And then it comes back on.
at 10:20:08.
All right. And how long does it come on at 10:20:08?
It goes until 10:20:20, so 12 seconds.
12 seconds. All right. And then what happens with this screen?
It goes back off at 10:20:20.
Okay. And it stays off until when?
10:34:16.
And is that the time Paul's phone died?
Yes.
All right. And so the screen may have come on briefly as the phone was
It
shutting
looks
off.
like for 4 seconds.
Okay. All right. In your review of Paul's phone, did you identify some of the communications that came into his phone?
Yes, I did.
And did you identify the last text that was sent to Paul's phone?
Yes.
And do you recall who sent that text?
Rogan.
All right. And you may not remember this exactly, but first of all, do you recall contents of that very last text from Rogan?
Yes, it just says yo.
All right. And did this jury's heard testimony that cell phones will log when someone actually reads a text.
They do.
And did you find any log that text yo was read?
It was not read.
Okay. And do you recall roughly the time that text hit Paul's phone?
I don't off the top of my head.
Was it between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock p.m.?
Yes.
Roughly speaking? Okay. But that was the last text. No other text came to his phone after that text from Rogan that said yo.
Correct.
And in your opinion, if anybody had been looking at that screen that came on at either 10:18:08 or 10:20:08, would they have seen a notification on that screen?
Most likely, yes. You can set your phone to not show contents, or sometimes if you have a text that comes through, it'll show the whole text and the contact. It depends on how it's setting, but yes, typically, if you were to see the home screen of the phone, there would be the notification.
And so, depending on the settings, there's a good chance if anybody happened to be looking at that phone screen either of those times, they would have seen a text notification from Rogan Gibson, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you just testified, we don't know exactly why the screen came on at that time, correct?
We do not.
All right. It could have been somebody tapped it, correct?
Yes.
Somebody may have briefly picked up the phone, correct?
Yes.
It could have been any number of things, correct?
Yes, any number of things.
And you can't tell us exactly why, though.
I cannot.
Now, this jury's heard a good bit of testimony about phone orientation changes, and we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. But in your opinion, is it possible for someone to just briefly pick up a phone, see the screen come on, put it back down, and for the phone not to record an orientation change?
Sure.
Okay. Moving on. All right. And you're also asked to look at Maggie's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, what database were you asked to take a look at on Maggie's phone?
Knowledge C.
All right. The jury's heard some testimony on the Knowledge C database, but just please refresh our memories what that is and what kind of information is contained in the Knowledge C database on an iPhone.
Sure. So Knowledge C database is something that Apple uses in the background to kind of track things that you're doing. It tracks your battery level, it tracks when you plug your phone in and when you unplug it, a whole bunch of stuff that is going on in the background that typically people have no idea is even running.
Okay. Okay. All sorts of information in that.
All sorts of information.
Would some folks be surprised if they saw the amount of information a phone was recording?
It can hold millions of artifacts.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 528 and ask if you recognize that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you reviewed the contents of that CD?
I have. It's a digital copy of some timeline reports.
Okay.
From Maggie's phone.
And specifically from Maggie's phone?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that timeline report would be from the Knowledge C database?
Yes, sir.
All right. And specifically, you said that a Knowledge C database can contain millions of artifacts, correct?
Yes.
When you prepared that timeline, did you kind of narrow it down a little bit?
Yes, I
did. And roughly what times on that?
I believe from 8 to past 10.
All right. And at this time, State would move to enter Exhibit 528 into evidence.
No objection. Submitted.
Can I have the computer, please? Okay, I'm going to pull up this spreadsheet on the computer that's in evidence on the CD. Even with a fairly narrow time frame, there's still a voluminous amount of data contained in this database. Is that correct?
Lots of data. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and specifically, let's take it to start time and end time. For this particular report, you kind of limited between time. What's that start time? The first
20:53 to 8:53 p.m.
Okay. We'll scroll down to the bottom real quick. And it looks like it stops at what time?
21:08 to 9:08.
9:08 p.m.
Yes,
On
sir.
what date?
That would be June 7th, 2021.
All right. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff here, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's take a look at a couple things specifically. Excuse me. Starting at 2053, we see some orientation changes, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And in your opinion, when you see an orientation change on a phone recorded in a Knowledge C database, what does that information tell you?
Typically, that's somebody's handling the phone.
So while a screen coming on or off may not necessarily tell you somebody's handling the phone, the orientation change definitely does, correct?
Yes, it's the phone logging that it's going from either vertical or landscape to the other.
Okay. All right, so let's look at line 1149 starting down to about 1154. You see what I'm talking about there?
Yes, sir.
These lines here. And it says camera. What, in your review of this information, can you draw any conclusions about what's going on, why that camera pops up at about 854 in this database?
All I can say is that the phone is interacting with the camera in some way.
All right. Did it interact for a significant period of time?
No, sir.
Do you recall roughly how long the interaction took place?
I believe it's 1 second.
Okay. All right, let's go down to line 1210. This is at 855 or 2055. And we see some things. It says iOS snapshots.
Yes, sir.
And there's looks like it says something about Facebook to the far right there, correct?
Correct.
What, in your opinion, what's going on with the phone at this point?
So a snapshot or an iOS snapshot is something that your phone does when you minimize an app in the background. So if you close Facebook and put it kind of in the background, it takes a little snapshot of it, so when you pull it up, you can see what it is. It'll do this for, as we see here, Facebook, which we can pull up and see. It does this for a bunch of apps. Not all apps take a picture of it. Some things will just be a blank screen. For example, if you do your camera, it's not going to store a picture of what your camera was looking at. When you have it, it's just a black screen.
Okay. And so it does, in your opinion, does this mean anybody's actually accessing the Facebook app or actually physically taking snapshots on this phone?
No.
All right. In fact, it's not doing that, correct?
Correct.
All right. In fact, in your view, the time frame on this report's 8:53 to approximately 9:08 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And during that time, in your review, was Maggie's phone locked or unlocked?
That was locked.
Okay. And it remained locked starting at what time? You may have to draw on your memory because this doesn't start till 8:53, but it's prior to 8:53, correct?
Yes.
All right, and it remains locked until the next day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then we're going to scroll down, starting at line 1243. I see a whole bunch of stuff here. And just generally speaking, what is all this stuff in this database at this time?
It's just background processes that your phone's running.
Okay. And I think we already skipped by that, so I'm just going to ask you real quick. But in this this time frame, we also see looks like the Siri app pop up in the non-C database.
Yes.
Correct? And how can the Siri app be triggered?
It could be a background process that's going on, or it could be triggered by somebody holding the power button or interacting with Siri.
Okay. All right, and we're almost done here. I'll be done by then.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the information is in this log, but did you identify a time after 9 o'clock when Maggie's screen turned off?
When her screen turned off?
Yes.
Yes.
And was that at 9:07 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And after 9:07 p.m., did you identify at any point over the next few minutes, or over the next 20 minutes, that Maggie's screen turned on?
I believe it turned back on at 9:31.
Okay. So between 9:07 and 9:31, Maggie's screen is off, correct?
Yes.
And also, you just said this a minute ago, it's also locked during that time, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so if Maggie's phone were thrown between 9:07 and 9:31, when the screen's off and the phone is locked, in your opinion, would you see an orientation change?
No, sir. That version of iOS that she has on her phone did not log that at that particular time.
So that version, which was what at that time?
14.6.
All right. And that version of iOS, if a screen's off and the phone's locked, the phone's not going to record an orientation change.
That is correct.
Okay. No further questions, John.
All right. We're going to adjourn for the day, ladies and gentlemen.
So that is the description of a great job for people who are looking for something to do in the future, is to get educated on the systems in the iPhone and Android phones. That's going to be big in the future. And of course, as technology changes, education will have to upgrade. But it's something for people looking for a job might want to consider as a future job for them, if you're good in technology. Okay, like and subscribe. Bye.